Hi, this is Ed Lawrence with Colliers. I'm Director of Research and Business Development, and I'm sitting here with Mayor-Elect Corey O'Connor. Thanks so much for your time, Mayor-Elect. And this is for the Colliers Pittsburgh fourth quarter 2025 report, but it will be released in likely before mid-December. Corey, just to jump into it, again, thank you for your time. Did you want to kick things off by telling a little bit about your background and how you came to where we are
Sure,
today?
yeah, no problem. So born and raised in Pittsburgh, went to Central Catholic, went to Duquesne, went to public school, went to East Hills and Frick, so city educated in multiple ways. I was on city council for 11 years, started my political career in actually Congressman Doyle's office as his community development rep. 11 years on city council, 3.5 years as the county controller, currently still there. And I saw an opportunity last year where I saw our city needed a jolt, needed a different type of vision. And I think, saw the opportunity, talked to friends and family and thought this was a great opportunity to step into the role as mayor, because we have a lot of work to do. And there's a good sense and a good vibe of Pittsburgh right now. And I think you need a salesperson and you need somebody that knows city government. So, the details of everything are taken care of. So you can look at the big picture, and just saw that this was a great opportunity to talk about our city. And, we're walking into a difficult situation, but I think, when you eat an apple, it's one bite at a time. So we will get there. But I think it was a good opportunity, and thought it was a good time to take a next step, and it worked out. So
No doubt. And on behalf of Colliers Pittsburgh, we're excited to see what's in store for 2026, and obviously wish you the best of luck.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm a native Pittsburgher, born and raised. My wife actually attended Duquesne, and although we live in the suburbs, we both work in the city, and we're really, I think, encouraged by a lot of your messaging thus far. And again, like I said, looking forward to the upcoming months. So we're going to talk about a few things I think that are not only important to commercial real estate, which Colliers is a major player in, and that's going to be some of the focus, but also in general about economic development. So Pittsburgh is fortunate. We've seen a growth in tech and advanced technologies, and there's a lot happening, as you're aware, at Hazelwood Green. We're just wondering what your plans are to continue to support those efforts and hopefully continue that growth.
Yeah, so Hazelwood Green, I was actually on council before it even started. So that was a project I started when I was on city council, a great location. But it also shows that we have space, we have opportunity, not just for AI and startup companies in office space, but we actually can start manufacturing a lot of goods within the city, which I think we forget about with that site. Right. So I think now's the prime example of, for us, leading, hopefully a new renaissance in Pittsburgh. It's talking to companies that are already here that want to expand, and show them the space, and being active in that space as the mayor, calling companies, being upfront, saying, what do you need from the city of Pittsburgh? And then also reaching out to companies that haven't quite looked at Pittsburgh. But it's amazing, just even having these conversations, we fall on almost everybody's matrix for, universities and talent and office space and neighborhoods, and, the ability now with the new airport to get around. Yes, you still might have to take some stops on your way, right. But I think to get to every major East Coast city, we're a direct flight. Yeah. And I think Pittsburgh hits a lot of matrix on somebody's list. So now it's our job to then sell Pittsburgh. And I think that's the mayor's number one job. Sell it not only people that are here and why, you chose Pittsburgh and how can we keep you here, but why people should choose Pittsburgh again. And that's definitely part of our message.
Excellent. Yeah, and we'll circle back to that at the end of this interview as well. I think that's really important. And I loved what you said a couple of days ago at Point Park about making those outreach phone calls to companies to consider Pittsburgh for relocation. And at Colliers, we're an international company, so I know our teams do likewise, particularly, reaching out to our brethren out west for their clients. Hey, please keep us in mind, because at Pitt and CMU, we have a lot of really good things here in addition to the other talent that we have. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about downtown Pittsburgh, and in terms of some of the challenges that the office market is facing in terms of vacancies. We wanted to find out what your strategy is and what your opinion is related to perhaps accelerating some of those office to residential conversions and attracting new investments and companies to downtown.
Yes, we got off to a good start, Governor Shapiro and the money that's being invested now. But we also have to still bridge gaps in a lot of those projects. So for us, it's looking at a downtown fund where we probably will fall back on a TRID, so transit related development, using financing that capitalizes on the tax increment that's already in town, maybe going into Station Square because we know there's a new development going to happen there, into the Strip where we know that market's hot, trying to collect those tax revenues that are already existing and going out and getting a future bond, simplifying it, but something in that degree, because we've seen other cities do it and they've gotten hundreds of millions of dollars. So if we had our own fund that looked at the Golden Triangle and invested in projects that could be shovel ready within a year, now those projects are going to be completed with this gap in financing. Now we're collecting that new tax increment to pay back the bond.
Right.
So I think we have to get aggressive in things like that. We also know that not every building can be converted to housing.
Right.
We like a lot of the conversions that are happening, so supporting those, but making sure that those continue. But then also looking at these empty spaces, and that's where it's got to be reaching out to companies, even doing renovations with these funds. So all of a sudden, an old office space looks more open and looks more like a new type of office would for a new investor. So I think having money that we can invest in downtown, not only in buildings, but also in infrastructure around downtown. So looking at the Boulevard of the Allies, making it a grand entrance again and narrowing it down so that, Point Park feels like a campus. And I think those little details go a very long way to show that we're willing to step up and invest. Who else is willing to join us? So I think having a fund where we can be flexible, working with property owners that are existing and possibly new ones to know that we want you to go and go quick. And then also looking at our permitting process.
Yeah.
Our permitting process is very slow right now.
Right.
And you look at major cities like New York that can get you a permit in 4 weeks. Why can't we do that in Pittsburgh? So I think that's going to be a very quick initiative to have, maybe there's some outside organizations, outside scholars that we bring in right away in January to really dive into our permitting process.
Right.
And if we have to get to a permit that's by right after 4 weeks, if your engineer or architect or a third party approves it, I think we're open to all those ideas, but we have to get that process down and do it fast.
That would be a gigantic win. Of all the panels that, NAOP and others have, that's 75% of the conversation.
Well, so here's the other thing we forget about. It's not just for big developers.
Right.
It's for somebody that's opening up a small business in a business district. It's, somebody that added a fence to their house. Like it actually affects neighborhoods more than the few projects downtown. And yes, it affects them. But think about if you could do neighborhood development even faster by speeding up permits and cutting their costs, because their margins are razor thin.
Right.
You have some big developers that have larger margins and they can get away with waiting 6 months or hopefully not that long. But it's the neighborhoods that actually will benefit more from a speed up in our permitting system.
Yeah, it's challenging enough to be an entrepreneur, and it takes a lot of guts to start up a business. And if you can remove a hurdle like that goes a long way to make those funds work. So, and kind of along those lines, of affordable housing is also a topic that comes up that's critical for the success of the city. What is your attitudes or your perception of inclusionary zoning, and what is your stance on development of multifamily and other multifamily in particular, but just in general affordable?
Yeah, so inclusionary zoning I voted for in Lawrenceville at the time when I was on council, because I think it's a tool that can be used when markets are exceeding, what the current values are in those neighborhoods. Inclusionary zoning citywide does not work. We're not a model that it fits for. Washington, D.C., different. I could build a building and fill it tomorrow. Pittsburgh, we have 300 plus thousand people. We don't have as many as Washington or other major cities.
Right.
But I think it's a tool that you can capitalize on and use in certain areas and neighborhoods when the market dictates it. But then when I think it comes down to affordable housing is starting to empower communities and community organizations a little bit differently. There's a lot of vacant space that these organizations would like to use. And shame on us when you add $350 million of COVID relief money, we should have shovel-ready sites all over our neighborhoods to empower those community organizations to start building 5 to 10 units at once. Mm-hmm. And we also have to do more units quicker. We have 11,000 parcels. Why are we not doing 50 to 75 units at once in these vacant lots?
Yeah.
Where if we do the capital up front to get them shovel-ready, you waive in tap-in fees and things like that. Now all of a sudden a house that was $400,000 to build is now $250,000, and you could sell it for a lower rate. And the other thing we have to focus on when it comes to affordable housing is workforce housing as well as home ownership. It's too often, we forget about home ownership, but we know home ownership is the key to creating generational wealth, especially in neighborhoods that haven't seen it in the past. So I think there's definitely guidelines that we can take. And there are tax credit projects and other things like that, but doing it in bulk will cut costs. It'll enable you to get these units out there fast enough because we have a shortage. We have 6,000 affordable units we're short, but we're short 10,000 market rate units. So if we want to grow, we have to build all types of housing and do it fast.
Yes, Director of Research at Colliers, Pittsburgh, we hold a multifamily symposium every year. We've gone through the exercise of comparing how Pittsburgh ranks against our peer cities like Cleveland and Cincinnati and so forth. And we're still way behind in the number of units that are required.
Because if you want people to live here, they have to have places.
And it's supply and demand in terms of affordable housing. Finding ways to increase supply, will definitely help to bring those costs down. So I think when you talk about making the permitting process easier and everything that you just said related to affordable housing in particular should go a long, long way. So that's music to our ears there. In terms of more general, but still important, recruiting and retaining professionals within the city of Pittsburgh. What are your plans to do that? And I guess that also relates again back to selling Pittsburgh itself. You've talked about that you really want to sell the city. What does that look like over the next 5 years in terms of branding?
Yeah, so obviously we have the talent here. We campaign and talk about it every day, and I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. Why is Pittsburgh not every family's first choice? And we understand the schools, and we could have an hour conversation about that, but they have to be better partners as well. So for us, looking at the things we can control, we have rec centers, we have space that can be utilized for community organizations, sports teams of all types, as well as for youth and the community, and having open spaces where kids can go and gather, where parents can meet other parents a couple blocks away. So making those sort of the core in the neighborhoods. But then you also have easy connectivity in Pittsburgh. We always think it's very difficult, but it's really not. I mean, if you wanted to walk Pittsburgh, if we walk downtown, you and I could walk every street all of downtown in 30 minutes.
Yep.
And I think we have to get to that mindset that, we are a livable, walkable community. And we have trails and we have multiple ways of getting around. So I think capitalizing on that, especially with young people who want to live in a business district, who want to live right next to the core shopping areas, looking at zoning code to allow density in areas that wasn't there before. So now we can rely more on public transit and people using more public transit. So you have to build it as this is an urban setting. So, a lot of people are like, well, I don't want this building on the corner. It's too big. We're living in an urban city. And I think, you have to change some mindsets here that growth and opportunity are good for everybody. And the more we grow, the more opportunities come to people that haven't seen it before. Especially, I know you mentioned entrepreneurs and startups, little storefronts and restaurants that we have space. So we can help to work a new storefront, a new restaurant that somebody probably never thought they could own before.
Right.
We have space for you to do that in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And it's also our residents have to believe in themselves. And having, you know, a mayor that's going to look at neighborhood business districts, not just downtown,
Right.
and investing in those so that that storefront on the corner, you always wanted to have a pizza shop. Okay, now's your chance. How do we get you into that shop?
Right.
And I think that goes a long way in proving to Pittsburghers that are currently here that I have options and I
Right.
want to stay here because I can succeed in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Again, being born and raised here, but unlike yourself,
Yeah.
I was a suburbanite,
That's okay.
and I still am.
We forgive you.
But
That's all right.
I'll tell you what, I'm 55 years old, and when I was growing up in Pittsburgh, never did I really imagine wanting to locate and live within the city limits. And now my wife and I talk about it all the time. And I think that mindset has changed. And you're right. I think a lot of it has to do with the recreational opportunities that are, and I think the rails, the trails help with that tremendously. So all that is great information. And those are the questions that I had. I don't know. I'll give you an opportunity if there's anything else that you wanted to say.
No, I would
look
just,
forward to.
I mean, thank you
Yeah.
for the opportunity to
Yeah.
talk to your constituents
Right.
and everybody that watches you guys and reads your newsletters.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for the mayor to be active and talking to everybody.
Right.
And I think we do have a sales pitch that if we get you here, a lot of people that come to Pittsburgh, and they've never been here before. And I think next year with the NFL draft, people are going to come here. Just the buzz of when you leave talking about Pittsburgh,
Right.
because you will. It's a hidden gem that you haven't thought of in a long time.
Yes.
And it's our job to put it back on the map and say, hey, why not Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
And I think that's got to be the message is we can compete with anybody. We can compete with you on, activities, whether it's recreation, whether it's arts and culture. We have a lot of those
Right.
things that people forget about.
Yeah.
So telling the new Pittsburgh story is really important for us.
It's always, because I went to a small liberal arts college in Ohio, and it's always an eye opener for a lot of my friends that come in from New York or Chicago or other areas like that. They can't believe all the great things happening here. And
It's right here.
it's so much fun to get that messaging out there. So I know your team will do that. So
Well, no, thank you.
you bet. So I think that wraps things up. Again, this is Ed Lawrence with Colliers. I just had a great conversation with Mayor-Elect Corey O'Connor for the fourth quarter 2025 Colliers newsletter.